Hello and welcome to Fight News Now. I'm John Pollock, along with John Ramdeen and Robin Black, coming out of one of the most newsworthy weekends I can recall. There's so much that we have to discuss, so let's get right into it. The biggest news coming out of UFC 199, amazingly, the rematch with Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz, buried. The Michael Bisping's title win, not even the biggest story, which if you had told me that was going to happen on Friday, I would have been stunned. Instead, we got the commercial reveal that Brock Lesnar is coming back for UFC 200 on July the 9th after getting his approval from the WWE to do the fight, and he will be meeting Mark Hunt.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the biggest stars ever in mixed martial arts, even though was only in the game for such a short period of time. You had all his detractors that, you know, this guy's going to get his butt kicked, this pro wrestling guy, but he would always deliver. Whether he won or lost, Brock Lesnar would always put on an exciting show, and I think that's why I tuned in to watch this guy, trying to throw flying knees against Cain Velasquez, really didn't shy away from top flight competition, even though he had limited experience in mixed martial arts. I'm very, very excited about this, but I just want to know, has he been training? Has he been evolving? Because if that's the case...
Well, we know that a year ago, he did do a test camp when his contract was coming due, and he stated at the time that physically he felt he was there, but mentally he wasn't, and he opted to re-sign with the WWE and went on ESPN and said, I'm closing the door to mixed martial arts. Now, in this case, Jeremy Botter had reported that he started training for this at the beginning of April. So it's not as if this guy is just picking up from nothing today, but it's not as if this guy is going to have necessarily years of training that Mark Hunt has had in the last number of years since his last fight in 2011.
Well, he can't strike with Mark Hunt. Almost nobody can at heavyweight. What somebody says when they have a lifetime of kayfabe, is that how you pronounce it? When they have a lifetime of storytelling for the purpose of excitement, you don't always necessarily trust what they say. My guess would be this guy's been training a lot to get himself in the mindset to go, oh yeah, I can crush these guys. I don't think he rolled off the couch in April and thought, I'll hit some pads. Yeah, what the heck, get in the cage. I think this guy has been probably training at a very high level he doesn't need the money, he doesn't need the glory, he doesn't need any of that stuff. He wants to come back and right what he feels was a wrong. I mean, the guy beat Randy Couture. The guy was the heavyweight champion of the world. If you would have told me 4 months ago that we'd be sitting here on a Monday morning talking about Michael Bisping, who just defeated Anderson Silva, and then Luke Rockhold to win the middleweight title, and that Brock Lesnar was coming back at
April Fools is what you'd be thinking. And that's what it comes down to. Has Brock Lesnar, to keep in shape, did he fall in love with mixed martial arts? Did he fall in love with the kickboxing game and the jiu-jitsu game? And that's how he was staying in shape, for his pro wrestling stint. Because again, if you've been...
He's a phenomenal athlete.
Exactly.
It's different kinds of staying in shape for pro wrestling versus mixed martial arts. And let's just throw out all the logic and analysis for this fight. These are two heavyweights that I will be stunned if this one gets out of the first round. And this is a dangerous opponent for Brock Lesnar and Mark Hunt. I mean, all the credit in the world that you're taking this fight. There are a lot of other heavyweights you could have looked at that are not the risk that Mark Hunt is. And if you are the WWE, you want to have this guy turn around and work your SummerSlam show 6 weeks later, which, if he is knocked out, I mean, there's tons of risk involved.
Yeah, and that's why I love Brock Lesnar, is because he's willing to take a dangerous fight like Mark Hunt, which means he probably has been training. And clearly, I think most people realize there's a clear-cut way for both guys to get this victory. Mark Hunt's probably going to try his best to knock Brock Lesnar out, and Brock Lesnar is going to try to barrel Mark Hunt over, put this guy in the ground to take away his biggest weapon. Will it work?
If Brock Lesnar was training 3 times a week for the last 2 years, I would still have him as an underdog in this fight. And that is as somebody who loves to watch this behemoth of an athlete do his thing. I love to. But not only is Mark Hunt, a 10 out of 10 in striking, where Brock will be somewhere between a 3 and a 5 or whatever. Call him a 7, call him what you want. This is the elite guy. Big Mark Hunt has moved his feet now. He doesn't defend takedowns by getting an underhook or old school sprawl. He moves his feet and Matador's out of the way. Push and move around. It doesn't matter how hard you come at somebody. If they're moving to the side, you go forward. So he has a lot of advantages. Credit, like both you guys just said, huge credit to Brock Lesnar to come back and fight someone like this. It really is unbelievable.
Michael Bisping, as we mentioned, is the new middleweight champion. This to me is one of the bigger upsets I can recall,
Yeah.
because I would say, as we mentioned on our preview show, there were clear favorites in those 5 main cards, and it was almost you knew something was going to happen in one of those fights. We got it in 2 with Dan Henderson and with Michael Bisping, but I would say of those 5 fights, of one of the underdogs coming through that I just did not see happening, it was Michael Bisping in the fashion in which he won that fight.
Yeah, it's true, but I think one of the things we were talking about going into it is that Michael Bisping has been around this game for so long. He's been in there. He doesn't shy away from any opponent, and he just got comfortable very, very early in this fight. It didn't seem that Rockhold was as comfortable as he needed to be and wasn't as confident, where you could feel the confidence oozing out of Michael Bisping. And the guy is a born fighter. Even on 2 weeks' notice, you saw what he was capable of and what he's made of. This is an awesome thing for the sport of mixed martial arts for Bisping to win this title.
I was shocked going into it when you have interactions with fans of fighting and friends and stuff on social media or wherever. People are like, this guy has no chance. And we spent the week going, that's a crazy thought. Well, did you see what Rockhold did to him the first time? It's like, every fight is a unique event. Every fight is a unique event with unique variables. And one of the biggest variables in this one, and this is in no way undermining Mike, who I am an enormous fan of for my whole life, but Rockhold did not come into this one with the seriousness that he needed to. If you go anything, this is a foregone conclusion, man. You wait till I touch him with this. And the look, the way, the laid-back nature, this was the wrong approach.
Was he too Masvidal?
He was. There's never two Masvidal. Yo, bro, we're gonna beat this guy. We love Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal has the perfect kind of relaxed. This guy had a dismissive. They call him smug sometimes. He walked into the cage with a smug, I can beat you on my worst day. And if you, we said this
well, that
morning.
was his worst day.
Yeah.
Look what happened.
And look what happened. And if you go in thinking that this is a predetermined outcome, it probably is, but not in the way you think.
What's amazing is that whoever you look at next for Michael Bisping, whether it's the rematch with Rockhold, Chris Weidman, Yoel Romero, whose suspension is coming due soon, Jacare, in all of those fights, you would place Bisping as a notable underdog. I think even in a rematch with Rockhold. An interesting one that I believe is really going to make it hard for this guy to make a decision about retirement is Dan Henderson. When he looks at that stage on Saturday night, here's a guy I beat, and it's not the craziest idea in the world to me that you put together a fight that has a great story in it. Dan Henderson going for his UFC title, or else he's done, against a guy he holds a win over, and at least it's a fight to me that it's a fight that Bisping would be, I think, favored in, and then you can lead to all those other fights that we just mentioned there. There's a lot on the table that you could go to for this middleweight division.
Oh, this is very, very good for the middleweight division. You want interest, and you have Michael Bisping, the best, one of the best top 2 best talkers in mixed martial arts. The guy knows how to sell fights. He's going to get people interested, and I think it doesn't come down to who he is. Do we put Luke Rockhold as the first challenge?
I think that was a great time to do that Rockhold-Vitor Belfort fight. There was no reason to do it when he had the title. You couldn't justify it with Vitor. Now you can do that fight, and Rockhold's going to be around for a long time, and I believe he will be a champion.
And I think that's what it comes down to. And you mentioned Vitor Belfort. There's another name that you could throw in the mix. I know a lot of people would say, okay, well, he's coming off that loss to Jacare. It doesn't matter. It's what the fans want to see. The UFC understands that, and it's what will do the biggest numbers. And there are a lot of fights for Michael Bisping, whether somebody's coming off a win or a loss, make it interesting, and there are so many fighters to choose from at 185 pounds
Just
right now.
don't ask Bisping about it right now, because he's going to have a hangover that's going to last 3 weeks.
All right, we have to end off with a story that got a massive amount of traction over the weekend, and that was involving Ariel Helwani and the MMA fighting team. Of course, they had reported about the Conor McGregor-Nate Diaz rematch and the Brock Lesnar fight. And then right before the main event, the 3 of them were escorted out of the arena. This has become a mainstream sports story. It's not just an MMA story. And just looking at this decision by the UFC, they had a surprise. Their surprise was reported on 2 hours before. I mean, I have a real problem with this.
Me too.
I'm very upset about it, but just your overall thoughts, because to me, it's not so much about Ariel Helwani, who I feel is a great reporter.
Yep.
He'll continue to be a great reporter. But to the guy that's just starting out now, that's trying to make a name for himself, and he has a story that he wants to report, I think he second guesses himself now about reporting this, and I think that's very toxic to the journalistic part of this.
Yeah, what I find very strange is throughout mixed martial arts history, whether you're Sherdog or MMA, now MMA Junkie or
This is
MMA
not the
Weekly.
first time this has happened.
True, but I mean, the whole point is to get the fans. The media is talking to the consumers of the sport of mixed martial arts. They're telling them about fighters that the UFC has acquired and so on and so forth to try to help build the sport and build the brand of the UFC. They've been doing it throughout history. Now it seems that the landscape has changed and you have to kind of listen to what the UFC says in order to report the news, and I don't think that's right. You know, I understand that everybody will have their side of things, but this just seems wrong to me.
Well, you can't have a full conversation without looking at a variety of perspectives. So it leaves on me here to introduce a very unpopular one. But that one that I'm going to try to at least introduce is you own a company now. You own a big company. And in that company, whether you are launching iPads or records, or you're launching a fight, or there's some type of release of something, you've got an upcoming thing, you monetize that release. You monetize the way you're going to release it. It affects your social media. It affects all of your business. It affects, you make money. You can quantify it. It's worth $100,000. Releasing that news on our platforms, gathering information, getting the attention of everybody, the way we'll use it to sell our product, it's worth $100,000 to your company. Now somebody else who, one could presume they have asked us not to go and undermine that. Somebody else now comes and siphons that off. That $100,000 value of instantly getting thousands of Facebook followers, thousands of things, making money off your website, clicks and likes and all those things, that quantifiable thing that you use in contract negotiations, somebody has now siphoned it. They took the value, they took the money, and they took the power. I'm not saying it's right, but what would you do if that was your company?
No, I understand what you're saying, but the fact is there wasn't history of that. You know, these different media entities were reporting the news.
No, but just that idea. This is your company. This is worth $100,000 to you. If you control an asset that you have, and somebody else takes it and succeeds,
there would have to be a conversation between me and those parties to say, hey, moving forward, this isn't good. We do not want you to.
Micro this story, okay? It was a commercial that was designed to be a surprise and catch everybody off guard. You really can't put a number value to what that is.
But breaking news does. The reason that The Rock negotiated in his contract for his appearance at whatever it was that he could put it out on his Instagram, which would gain him 5,000 Instagram followers, which he would monetize when he does endorsements. You could say that's worth 90,000. You could say that's worth 140,000. So much so that they put it in his contract that he could have that monetary buzz in that moment. Now, if you went and reported that contract that they made with their proprietary stuff with a athlete, you have now undermined it and you've siphoned off the power and the money and the clicks that come with that. I'm not saying any of this is right. In fact, I think it is wrong. But when you look at the perspective in 2016, you see it is not, well, I want to report something, they don't want to report it. It is now, we have something of monetary value that you are going to take and you're going to take it from us. That's their perspective. I don't know that it's right. This isn't my opinion. This is just how the media landscape has changed from only journalism to now social media and global media. And it's different. It's worth something now. And if something is worth something to you or your company, you want to protect it. And if somebody takes it in some way, you, as an owner of a company, might just say you're not welcome.
Final thing, because I know we're probably way over time here, though, you have to also look how much, and I can't put a figure on this either, is the damage the UFC has taken. They have looked incredibly bad to a large amount of people, and it's not just MMA media. It is the heavy hitters of the world that are covering this. The Dan Patricks, the Rachel Nichols of the world, Chris Mannix. This is a massive story, and I think it puts the UFC in a bad light that we are this closed shop that are not going to adhere to any other policies that sports leagues do, where this is part of the game. You are covered like an industry, like a sport is, like an entertainment entity is. It's within the UFC's rights. They can decide who they credential and who they don't. But I disagree with it vociferously.
If there is a negative backlash and they lose something as a result of it, that is what it will take to reinstate Ariel, who's bigger now than he's ever been before. So for him as an individual, this has not been a bad thing. But they will reinstate him or say it's been 30 days or whatever if the fallout is as bad as it looks like it is.
If there is any major news coming out of Ottawa, these two will be reporting on it because they will be there live next week, and we will have coverage all week long from Ottawa, Ontario, leading up to the Fight Night event on Saturday night, headlined by Rory McDonald and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.